Pivawuna.
Yeah,
Niakit, Janet.
Ikarus.
Alito.
Madawaka.
Sio.
That's the Huntedish.
Gwena.
Kunamante.
Yate.
Buenos dias.
Stongo. Stongo Oshkin Yecha. Hanapi. Good morning, good morning. Coming live from 1950 South Shepherd. So how was your Father's Day weekend, bro?
Man, it was good. Relaxed. I had to, my nephews. I had to mow my lawn twice. My nephews did it once, but they didn't try to lower it or nothing. And then we got all that rain, and so it grew fast. And so I went over it just because it was so tall at the levels that they had it set at. And then I lowered it and went over it all again just so we didn't have to worry about it. Because, it's been raining like every other day.
Yeah.
So I'm like, I need to make sure we stay on top of it. So, yeah, that was what my Saturday consisted of. Yesterday was just nice, man. We went to church. We came back. Jamie made Indian tacos.
Wow. I didn't know Jamie could cook.
Yeah. Surprised me.
That's why it's been raining.
Yeah. She won't ever see this, so you can say whatever you want. But yeah, so her and James and everybody came over. We had Indian tacos, and it was kind of nice, man, to be around family and just have that time. Me and James, we don't ever expect nothing big or nothing or anything like that. So we just sat around and we watched that new Predator anime that's on Hulu.
Oh yeah, was that good?
Yeah, it was pretty good. If you're into the like Alien Predator universe, it was really cool. So we watched that tonight, ready for the Thunder game. So
oh yes, Thunder up.
How was your Father's Day weekend?
It was interesting. We've had some good morning, Stacy. We've had some trials and tribulations happening, right? Like me and my family.
Yeah.
Just some things that had been brought to light, and it didn't look good in their favor, right?
Right.
And I take it as a blessing in disguise. Because when it involves adults and it involves children, like I said, it's a blessing in disguise, right? Nobody expected these things to happen, and I always try to look at the positive. What had happened was, just lifestyle. The lifestyle that was chosen. Some decisions that were made weren't in the best interest of some kids. So I mean, it's a growing process. I think about, like the way that I pray. Like that's how I think about it. Like it's part of my prayer life. It made everybody uncomfortable because it showed us, where we hold ourselves accountable. Like where do we hold ourselves accountable? Are we trying to point the finger? Are we trying to, be mad at one another? Is it someone's fault? Like to me, it's really a time to be accountable and see where we could have improved. So it's just one of those things where, I see where I've been sober, 4 years and a month, and I can still see where addiction is affecting my life.
Right.
Like even though it has nothing to do like directly with me, but it involves my family members.
Yeah.
And it's just like I said, it's part of my prayer life.
Yeah. And it's it is kind of a two-way thing, because sometimes it's a good thing.
Yeah.
It's like, that people that are out there but that are still battling, especially family that are battling
Yeah.
with addiction. But at the same time, there are those in your family, like, for instance, like I've noticed a lot more lately that people are recognizing, uh, what it is I'm going through, and they
Yeah.
recognize, hey, um, we need to respect his decisions, and we need to respect how he is. And I've noticed it more just because I've been around family a lot more lately.
Yeah.
They everyone jokes around like, oh yeah, don't do this around him, or don't do this around him, blah 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 blah. But at the same time, it's not like they're pushing me to try to be, the way in that life like I used to be in.
Yeah.
But there's still others that are out there that they just completely ignore anything that's going on, and just kind of like we know that it's a selfish life,
Yeah.
and
Very,
they're
yes. Very
choosing, they're
selfish
just
life.
choosing to be that way, and they're willing to uh, sacrifice whatever it is in order to get that little bit of selfish gain, even if it's just for
Yeah.
a brief
Just
a
for,
brief
yeah,
high, or a brief,
whatever it is,
whatever it is. Yeah.
But yeah, so I got to went and picked up Johnny and Penelope. They're 10 and 12, and we went over to my sister's, who has my grandkids now.
Yep.
And got to spend the evening with them, which I'm so, man. I have the best sister. Like this ain't the first time she's had to step in for me.
Yeah.
And man, I just can't even express, how grateful, thankful, and appreciative I am of my little sister. It's crazy because she has 5 brothers. She's the only girl,
Hmm.
and man, she will go to bat for us every time.
Right.
And she doesn't care. And like she's the one that'll hold you accountable.
Yeah.
If when it comes to her and the way she loves us, like she will definitely be the one to say what needs to be said.
Yeah.
So it's like I said, it's a blessing in disguise. When this process is all said and done, and everyone involved, I think it's going to benefit everybody's life. And because there was, let me see, 18 people involved.
Yeah.
That's a lot of people. That's a lot of people. And then I'm just glad I was able to be there. I'm just glad I was able to be present. I'm just glad, like I have all these resources. If any of them ever want to reach out and need me to help, maybe guide them, I would love to.
Yeah.
I would love to help out in that way. But as we all know, you can't follow somebody around and say you need to be sober. You need to be sober.
Yep.
You need to be sober. Like it doesn't work that way. It's a thing of attraction. Do what I do.
Yeah.
I do what people at the 506 do. I do what people at the talking circle do here. And it's a combined effort. Like there are definitely resources. And maybe it is just me that they don't want to deal with. I know other people that they can turn to.
Right.
So I mean, it's I think of it as all a God thing.
Yeah.
Definitely a God thing. And it's his opportunity to allow them to build a relationship with him. So do we have any good comments, Mr. Patrick?
Um, David said, "Good morning."
Good morning, brother Dave.
Heights Spirit Horse.
Hey,
White Eagle said,
hey.
Good morning, brothers.
Good morning, brothers. Cali, that Cali life right there.
So, just our good morning so far.
Yep, that's about
All
it.
right. Well, appreciate y'all tuning in. And like it wasn't as traumatic as you would think. Like I called my sister, and within an hour she showed up. And I'm I wish everyone involved could could just experience, what that feels like.
Mhm.
Somebody showing up
Yeah.
when things get tough, and is ready to stand with you. So I pray, I pray a lot. I pray that addiction doesn't disturb my grandkids' life. So if this what it has to look like, I'm not mad at all.
Right.
I'm not ashamed.
Hmm.
I don't feel guilty. I'm not scared. I can forgive. I think about that unhealthy forest, and how that is interconnected to this healthy forest. Love, pride, joy, like all these, humility, accountability,
Right.
like all these different things that are a positive. Like I don't think of it as like something, like it had to happen. At some point, something had to give.
Right.
And I just keep thinking about the positive that's going to happen from this experience. How do we stop this from happening again? What do we have to do? What choices have to be made? Who's going to decide, you know uh if somebody's going to tell them they can be around or not? Like are they willing to take the step that it takes for them to get better?
Mm.
And basically, what's best for the kids.
Right.
Like it's that simple.
Yep.
No, it's simple math. It's an equation that probably looks like Einstein drew it, but then when you break it down, it's simple math. What can be done? How are these decisions affecting? And for once, let's put the kids first.
Right.
If anything, let's put the kids first. And I think that's going to change the course of a lot of lives. And then there's some that ain't going to. They're only going to get worse.
Yep.
So it's like now it's go time. You know, uh, either you're part of the solution or you're part of the problem.
Right.
It's like I said, it's simple math.
Yeah, and sometimes people are stubborn enough to think that they're still part of the solution when they're really part
Yeah.
of the problem.
Yeah, I
And I think
mean,
that's part of the process of everybody going through. That's why we're so big on everybody going through these steps, and learn whatever steps it is. It don't have to be AA
Yeah.
or Wellbriety, whatever process you
whatever,
got to
yeah,
go through.
whatever prompts you
Yep.
to be a better person.
Yeah, until you can recognize, what it is that's going on with you.
For sure.
So that's it's key. Whenever you were talking about that, it's like, man, there's that stubbornness and pride that keeps everybody away from
Yeah.
sometimes making the right decisions.
And it's tough.
Yeah, it is tough, especially whenever you feel like that's all you can rely on.
Yeah, that's all
for
you
the
know.
longest time. Yeah.
I mean, that's all that you know. Let's question these values. Let's question these beliefs. Let's question, let's open your mind, let's open your heart and see what happens.
Yep.
Because obviously your decisions got you to where you're at.
Yep.
Let somebody else, that's living a good life, show you how to be honest.
Yeah.
Let somebody else who is been in, got a little bit of sobriety, show you what it feels like. No more depression, no more, you can always refund that man, that misery. You can always, refund that back.
Yeah.
All that pain, all that depression. you can refund all that back and go back to using. Or you can find a way. Look for a solution. Look outside of yourself and realize that there's a whole community that is willing to support you. But you just got to make that decision. Nobody can. It's not going to stick. I've done that before. I've gotten sober for kids. I've gotten sober for, a significant other. I never did it for me. And, basically, what I was telling somebody was, like recovery is self-care.
Yeah.
Like in the highest form. Self-care, like, am I safe? Am I happy? Am I protecting my peace? Am I, like it's just self-care. Like you're figuring out how to take care of yourself.
Yeah.
Because if you can't take care of yourself, you can't take care of anybody else.
Yeah, I think that's a big part because my sister's going through that battle right
Yeah.
now. She'll call me every once in a while, or she'll message me and say, "Man," she's like, "all this stuff is going on." She's like, "I'm worried about this or I'm worried about that," and I'll kind of reflect back with her and I'll tell her, "But how are you doing outside of whatever it is that you're focusing on right now, whether it's your job or whether it's your friends or your housemates or whoever it might be, like no matter what it is they're doing, are you being able to keep your focus? Are you being able to continue your own self-care like you were just talking about? You have to be able to keep that focus because I don't know how many times we have to say it. It's like you can't take care of anybody else unless you're taking care of yourself. And
Definitely.
that's such a big point in the recovery process. And it's one of the biggest things that we try to point out in the very beginning is that you have to recognize yourself before you can even try to move forward. So
Yeah.
a lot of people are finding out during those beginning stages, like who they really are.
Yeah.
And it's kind of like I don't know, like what do they call it? Like an epiphany, because they're like, oh, this is the way I really am, not versus who I was.
Yeah. Not who I had to be.
Yeah. And so I think that's the kind of, both you and I kind of went through that process to where we were like, oh, well, this is how not how I'm supposed to be, but this is who I am.
Yeah.
And now we're not, I'm not afraid to tell anybody about who I am, or neither are you. We just had to keep you from talking about yourself so much. No,
I can't talk about anybody else.
I could.
Like
Don't do it.
that's the thing about this process, is that your recovery becomes discovery.
Yeah.
You start to realize, like things that I used to think were feminine, or to me, if you showed care, that was a weakness.
Yeah.
That was something that people could attack. If somebody's pulling on your heartstrings, then they're always gonna get over on you because, like I was telling Tatum the other day, you do look like you got $5,
Yeah.
You just have that look about you,
Yeah.
like it was, you can never show any weakness.
Yeah.
And that's what I'm discovering today is like being able to be, vulnerable. Like every time I make myself vulnerable, every time I get on here, like I'm not afraid to talk about love. I'm not afraid to talk about compassion. I'm not afraid to talk about myself.
Yeah.
I'm not afraid to speak about my process, because when we get on here, I understand this isn't about me. Yeah, I'm talking about me, but like how can I help the next person? And it drives my daughter crazy because she always goes, ugh, like, quit talking to me like you're on the podcast. And I'm like, like at some point, I got to turn off dad.
Yeah.
And I got to be able to talk to you like in a way that, like I'm only here to help.
Yeah, and I think that's part of when people are talking to me. Like I have to realize, because there's like parts of me where I'm like, do you want me to be a brother right now? Do you want me to be the behavioral health guy right now? Do you want me to be the mental health guy right now? Or do you want me to be the minister guy now? I was like, which one are you wanting? And they're like, well, I really need to hear from this one right now. I know they call me because they want to hear from just me in general. I'm like,
Yeah.
well, what part do you really want to hear? And I try to make sure that it's all like I'm all the same person, and I don't change anything that I'm saying
Uh-huh.
or anything like that. But there's times where I'm like, I have to catch myself because I'm like, I start talking to them like we do, like on here or somewhere
Yeah.
else, or
Yeah.
when we're talking to the community.
It's
I'm
my
like,
go-to.
yeah, and I'm just like, that's just, it's not, it's just who I am now. It's
Yeah.
not like I'm like pointing out like, oh, well, you need to go to therapy, or you need to go do this, or you need to go do that.
Yeah.
That's not. I'm trying to develop that communication process with whoever it is, because you're reaching out for a reason.
Yeah.
Whether you're family or friends or whoever it may be, I was like, you're reaching out for a reason. Like I have certain things that I may ask, or there's just a process to how you talk to people whenever they're reaching out for that help.
Definitely.
And I think that I was talking to somebody last night. I was like, I'm sorry, but you brought out the work side of me when I didn't think you were going to bring out the work side of me, because I was just trying to, they just wanted somebody to sit there and listen.
Yeah.
And but I started asking the questions, or reflecting back, like, well, this is what we learned throughout this process. And I'm just, oh, I'm sorry, I need to turn that off. They're like, no, it's good, it's good.
Yeah.
It just made me laugh because I thought about that last night, and then it came up today. So.
It's just, my family is just kind of, I guess, questioning, what how did we get here? What happened? Like, and I'm not sitting here trying to point the finger, or, like everyone's mad at, just one certain, person, and, kind of like, where's your accountability in that?
Right.
Like, and that's one thing, I remember watching this show, and this person was in recovery, and they're going around trying to apologize to everybody. And he comes up like on his ex-wife or sister or something. And she goes, "Oh, let me guess, you're on your redemption tour." Like you're on your
Yeah.
you're on your I'm sorry tour, like, and that just cracked me up, because I want to say at that time I was going through that process.
Yeah.
You're learning how to clean up your side of the street. And just the thought of that, like damn, here, like that's exactly what I'm like going through right now. And
Yeah.
like then I felt ashamed. Like it kind of, hurt my pride and my ego a little bit, as but then you realize, like that's what keeps getting me in trouble. That's what makes these things so hard.
Yeah.
Is your pride and ego take this hit, and everything that's on Facebook really don't match up with the way that I'm living.
Yeah.
Like I called myself out, and if I would have been honest from the very beginning, we probably wouldn't be here, and it's been an ongoing thing in my life. Like I think about when my kids were small, right? Like they always wanted to be at, their other family's house.
Mm-hmm.
Well, when they're with me, like we have chores, we have things that we do. We're in bed at a certain time.
Yeah.
Like there's like rules that we follow, like there's these things are in place, to help you get better.
Right.
And there's things that we do, there's things that we don't do. Whereas when they would get to go over here, they could do whatever they wanted.
Yeah.
So you weigh the things out as a kid. Of course, they're always going to go to where it's an easier life for them.
Yeah.
Like it just, none of these things are in place. So I always felt defeated. My a good part of my kid's life. I always felt defeated because Barry's this, Barry's that. Like he's mean.
Mm-hmm.
He spanks his kids. Like Like, and then they go over here and it's nothing.
Yeah.
So like I like at some point I it really, really, bothered me. When I got deeper into my addiction, and things just really took off, like to where I couldn't control them to control anything anymore. And then coming back into my kids' life, I'd say for about a good, you know, 8 years, I struggled. I struggled bad, But I can say, it feels good today.
Yeah.
I showed up for my daughters. When things started happening, I showed up for my daughters.
Yeah.
And I wasn't afraid. I wasn't afraid to be there. I wasn't afraid to be questioned about what I've been doing. What's been going on. I said this a few weeks ago. I can't make rules for other grown-ups
Right.
in somebody else's house.
There's kind of a quiet tranquility to that. Like
Yeah.
you can ask me whatever you want. I have no fear of telling you what it is I'm doing.
Yeah,
Like
definitely.
I have no fear of you finding out what I was doing last night. I have no fear of you asking me about what I was doing last weekend or what I was doing
Yeah.
on Tuesday night at 10 o'clock. You can
Yeah.
ask me whatever you want. Like I don't have to not have that fear anymore or
Yeah.
not worry about.
Don't walk that
Yeah,
line no more.
yeah. I don't have to worry about trying to figure out what kind of lie I have to say or whatever
Exactly.
it is. It's just it's just a piece to where you don't
Yeah.
have to worry about that. So if you want to call me or you want to question me or whatever you want to do, go ahead.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah, yeah.
I'm not worried about
I'm
it
the same way,
anymore. So
same way.
it's just like I'm not. I don't have anything to hide anymore. Like there isn't any reason for me to worry about
Yeah.
somebody knowing where I am.
Ain't got to
or-
cover my tracks. No more.
yeah, like, and I remember it having to be that way, and I remember
Yeah,
how
me
like
too.
on edge I had to be all the time, and like, man, if this person finds out about this, I'm, what am I gonna do? Like, where can I say I'm gonna be at, or who can I blame it on?
Yeah,
Like who was I around at the time, and what will they say about me if they find out? Like all these questions you have to ask yourself whenever you're trying to cover up for whatever it is you may have been doing
Yeah.
at the time. And I think that's just like to not have to have those worries anymore, man. It's just uplifting
Such a
to
relief.
not have to worry about it. Yeah, a huge relief to not have to worry about that.
So it's so if anybody could do me a favor, is just offer some prayers, for
Absolutely.
those children that were affected, the adults that that something good, I know something good's going to happen,
Right.
and pray for the ones that don't see a problem with what was going on, like it's crazy.
Yeah,
It's
some
crazy.
people will look at whatever situations it may be in, they'll be like, oh, that's just life.
Yeah,
They'll learn from it. They'll figure something out.
I mean, it's amazing to me, like how m- my kid's mother, she bounced out, bro. Like, like
Yeah.
it's crazy, But I also, I'm sure I've been that parent a few times.
Yeah.
In my life, and I couldn't show up because of the choices that I was making.
Yeah.
So I still pray for her.
Yeah.
Her and her companion, pray that one of these days, that I just hate it for my daughters.
Yeah.
That they don't have that. And it's like they've always found ways to get her attention, but it was always in the wrong way.
Yeah.
And maybe like a lot of truth came. Like I said, a lot of the truth came to the surface, and man, I'm just glad to be sober today.
Yeah.
I'm glad to be in the position that I'm in. I'm glad to be, and I pray. I pray that we all deserve this.
Yep.
We all deserve to be happy, man. And I just always continue to pray for them. You know, no matter what, whether they're doing good or whether they're doing bad. You know, that's what I've been taught to do, and that's what I'm going to keep doing.
Yeah,
So
and everybody deserves to feel that same peace that we were
yes,
just talking about, but to not have to
definitely.
worry about different things anymore. And I think that's kind of, that's our goal. Like, whether or not we don't ever say that very much, but like to achieve that peace that within yourself and to be able to portray it to others is kind of, that's kind of a key factor in how we try to present, like, where you're trying to get to in recovery.
Yeah.
And so, but yeah, so that's you're good. We got some more good mornings from Miss Leslie.
Good morning,
And
sister.
Miss Leanna Thomas says, "Good morning,
Oh,
fellas.
hey.
I hope you had a nice Father's Day weekend."
Aho, Mado.
Miss Andrea Alexander says, "Good morning
Hey.
from Seminole."
All right. Hey.
Yeah.
Good morning, sis. Stongo.
Don't go. Natalie says, "I'm the same way when my kids would tell me when they were younger, Mom, I don't need you to get on to me. I need you to listen. So I choose to listen. So now when they call on me, I'd be like, do you need me to fix, help, or just listen?" And then Cassie B says, "Good morning."
Good
And
morning, Cass.
Melissa Pedro says, "Good morning, fellas. Happy belated Father's Day."
Thank you, sis. Appreciate you, dear woman.
All these nicknames.
I know.
I ain't been on here enough to recognize like who's who. Like, I
I
recognize
already
some
know.
of them.
Like I already know.
Like, I'm glad you know all of them.
Yeah. You know, that's the cool thing about, I don't know. Like, I can't see what the messages say, but as soon as I hear the,
Yeah, that's why we're
name,
like all of
like-
us are in the habit of saying, "Oh, we have to say Cassie B, or we have to say Melissa."
yeah,
And
I
you're like,
already know.
"Oh, okay. Good morning, dear woman."
yeah.
So
Well,
that's good.
do you think we should jump off into this reading?
Yes, we can. So we're still in the springtime. It's meditations with
Yes.
Native
Almost
American elders.
summertime.
Yeah.
Almost.
June 16th.
Summer solstice
today.
is coming up.
Let's start here. For me, the essence of a medicine man's life is to be humble, to have great patience, to be close to the earth, to live as simply as possible, and to never stop learning. Comes from Archie Fire Lame Deer, Lakota. The medicine people focus on their being, not their doing. After all, we are human beings, not human doings. The medicine people are very patient and consciously trying to live a life of humility. Medicine people are servant leaders. Their main purpose is to serve the needs of others. By this service attitude, they become the leaders people listen to and the leaders people want to follow. The medicine people say everyone is their teacher. Maybe we should try to live this way ourselves, humble, patient, honoring the earth, and listening to our teachers. Grandfather, today, let me know all people are my teachers, and I am the student.
Aho,
Good.
Mr.
Okay, Mr. Botone.
Beles. Gracias.
Take it away.
You know, there's a lot of lessons to be learned still, right?
Every day.
I mean, every day. I would hate to ever think that I know enough, right? I
Yeah,
mean,
well, I used to be that way.
yeah, me
I'm
too.
not gonna lie, because I used to tell people all the time, I don't need to learn nothing else. I'm good.
Yeah,
Like, I'm smart enough. I know enough. Like, I'm good.
I was that guy.
Yeah.
You know?
It was just about. I think it was yesterday when I figured that out.
You know,
I used to be that way.
I would say I'm full of unnecessary, like I would have the most random thoughts, and learn about, like one time I remember learning about where rust comes from. Rust comes from the bottom of the ocean. And I just thought that was the coolest thing ever. When I would have these conversations with a bunch of all kinds of drug addicts. Like, where rest comes from? Like, I was full of all this, I used to call it useless information.
Yeah.
But I definitely wanted to learn. I just didn't know what to learn about.
Yeah.
Where it says everyone you can learn something from everyone. Even, in my little bit of time of sobriety, I'm I'm still learning from other addicts, from other alcoholics in recovery, even some of those that aren't in recovery. Like it says, everyone can be a teacher.
Yep.
And as I say in California, each one teach one. It's like I don't care if you got 100 years or if you got 100 days. I want to know what helped you make that decision.
Right.
I want to know what because the majority of the time, it's always something bad had to happen. Like that's like something that is very like what bad, like you might as well say what trauma had to happen for you to understand.
What trigger point?
Yeah, what did it take for you to come to that decision? Was it trauma? Were you wise and did you listen to other people and decide like I don't want to be this way anymore?
Yeah.
Is like there's so many different aspects that goes into making the decision to want to be sober. So it's like I remember being scared. I was catching I've never even heard of Ontario, California, the airport that I flew into.
Yeah.
Never even heard of that. They were like, yeah, you're going to be flying into Ontario. And I was thinking, Canada? Like, I'm going to California. Yeah. You're going. And I had to act like I knew what they were talking
Oh
about.
yeah, I got it.
Yeah. Oh, that Ontario. Okay. Like, never even heard of it before. And, I think about that unhealthy forest, that fear, that anger, that shame, that guilt that kept overriding any other emotion that I was feeling. And I didn't, Mom, I didn't have the open mind to realize like I don't have to suffer through those processes every day. There is a way out. There is a solution. You know, but you have to teach yourself how to open up your mind, how to open up your ears, how to open up your heart and see with your heart. You gotta teach yourself how to do these things. It didn't just happen overnight. Like bam, just woke up one day, like, you know what? You have to build on these things. You got to learn how to put one foot in front of the other.
Yep.
One of the great things that I love to do is I love to come to work and I love to start a cold. I love to put medicine on there. I like to say a little prayer, and I like to take it to every single person here at DOH.
Yeah.
And offer them this medicine. A lot of them spend the day out in the field. A lot of them are traveling. I think about, like bring them back, bring them back safely. Let them be able to do their job in a manageable way where it does something positive for the client and it does something good for them. And then I think about, I like explaining, like to Patrick, kind of explaining to him, why do we turn to these things?
Right.
Like it's just part of who we are, like do I think of myself as a medicine person? Hell no, like the furthest from that, but
I know about some medicine.
yeah, I if anything, I can offer prayer.
Right.
And sometimes that's all that a person needs. Maybe they don't know how to love themselves. Maybe they forgot how to pray. Maybe they quit leaning on God. Maybe they don't have it in them to look outside of themselves. So I mean, I've been blessed that way. Been able to talk about the Creator, talk about how I needed all the bad first. The first 40 years of childhood are pretty rough.
Mm-hmm.
I needed all the bad first to realize what good is. And I'm so hard headed. It only took 41 years.
Yeah.
So I think about, like my daughter's age. They're young. They're still in their 20s. Like they have a full life ahead of them. Let's get ahead of this thing now. Let's become the people that you've always dreamt of. Because I think that's just part of this process. Is that they're gonna realize who they really are.
Yeah.
And who people are around them. And I love the fact that they can learn. In some situations, you need to learn how to be wise. They say smart people learn from their mistakes. A wise person learns from other people's mistakes.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of situations I find myself being wise in. I got the craziest text last night. It said, I'm looking for some, some some shit.
Yeah.
It's looking for some, and I was just like, and then it said Happy Father's Day. And I just put a laughing face. Then it said, but F you. I'm just like, okay,
Thank
like,
you.
yeah. I just put, like I can't help it. I gave a smart ass remark,
Yeah.
and said something to kind of I'm trying to figure out who this was. And then so I put another comment under that and then another comment and just kind of left it at that, but I'm just like, like it makes me wonder, which cousin it was.
Yeah.
Was it my brother Bush? Was it maybe it was a niece or nephew, like I don't know, just kind of, but I'm learning that they know who I used to be.
Yeah.
I was that guy that you could text that to and I would be all over that, but now, but then after they said that comment, then it was Happy Father's Day. I like the fact that they recognize, that maybe I do play a fatherly role in their life.
Yeah.
Or it was somebody obviously that remembered who I was, but know who I am today, but still can't stand me, like but like they recognize me on Father's Day.
Yeah.
So I mean, I probably shouldn't have said all the smart aleck remarks after that. But I just thought it was funny that
Yeah.
I have no idea who that was.
Well, you wouldn't be Barry if you didn't make
I
yourself.
know, right? I mean, I got a slick mouth.
Yeah.
It's gonna run. Yeah.
I try to stop it.
Yeah, I try
It
not
goes.
to, but sometimes I think it's funny.
Yeah.
But so yeah, that's all I got.
That's good. That's good.
But
That's the key part for me is where it said, we're human beings, not human doings.
yeah,
And I think we're so engrossed in the world sometimes that we always feel like we have to be doing something. We have to be doing, going out and just thinking about everything that's been going on. We have to go out and protest. We have to go out and be part of this parade. We have to go out and be involved in this or involved in that. We have to do all this. But sometimes, we just need to be. And having that time where we're just allowing yourself to be still, to be quiet, and allow yourself to have some reflection time, not on what's going on around you, but about what's going on inside of you. And because every single day, we tell everybody, start your day with prayer, start your day with thanks, start your day with a little reflection on, hey, I was given the gift of another day of life today. what am I going to do with that gift today? How am I going to use what I know? How am I going to use my life and my experiences to better somebody else today? And I think that if you use this, and it talks about the medicine people, but you can use it in a generalization too. Like this can just be you reflecting on who you are as a person. Have patience, show love, show respect, no matter what it is that's coming your way. No matter if you have some person that's texting you crazy, or if you have somebody that's talking to you crazy, it's not going to help them any by being crazy right back to them. Not saying anything against what you are. Like I said, you were being Barry, and that's
Definitely.
fine.
Definitely.
And I think people they recognize they were enough to recognize that they knew who you were, and
Yeah.
they knew who you are, so they had enough respect for you to tell you Happy Father's Day. And so it's just key parts of people recognizing who you are as a person, and to know that they can reach out to you and they know you're going to listen, or they know
You'll say something smart.
yeah. And so and maybe that's all they want. Maybe they're just longing
Most
for
time
some
it
kind
is the interaction.
some kind of interaction. And I think that's kind of key, because I'm trying to teach my girls that, hey, every once in a while somebody's going to, not kids these days, they can be mean. Like sometimes, your person that you're calling a best friend, they might say something mean to you one day. They may not want to talk to you for a couple days. But does that mean that you need to react to what it is they're saying, or, react in a certain way? And they're just like, no. And I'm like, well, I'm glad you recognize that. I said, because not everything deserves a reaction from you. Sometimes patience and not saying anything, silence, can be one of the strongest things in the world.
Oh yeah.
When it comes to having those kind of interactions with people. And I'm trying to teach them that and show them that, patience is key, man, like in any situation. But it's like one of the hardest things to try to teach people.
Yeah.
Because they're going to have to go through their own situations to figure out how far they got to come in order to strengthen that. And so just sometimes, man, it could be the easiest days. Try to have a simple day to where you're not worried about anything. Relax. Don't go through sit at Des's desk. She's not here today. You interrupted my thought process, Tatum. No. But like I said, have a simple day to where you're not having to worry about anything. You don't have to worry about
Stress.
being over here. No stress.
Yeah.
A simple day doesn't mean sitting at home and being lazy all day. A simple day just means not having to worry about
Clear your
responsibility of taking care of this person or taking care of this person. Self-care days. And they're so important, not to just your physical health, but your spiritual health and your emotional health.
Mental and physical.
Yeah, it helps so much. And we tell people, like we said, we start your day off with prayer, end your day with prayer. Take 30 minutes throughout the day just to go and sit in a room and just be silent and be still and allow yourself to reflect on whatever it is you're going on in
Even
life.
if it's 5 minutes.
Yeah. And it just helps. But it doesn't just help you connect with yourself. It helps you connect with, like the quote says, with Mother Earth, with Creator, with the people around you. It just
surroundings.
Yeah. Just sit there and listen, and it helps so much. So that's kind of what I took away. I would sit here and talk
Good
forever if I had to.
Yeah.
But yeah,
Do we have any good comments, Mr. Patrick?
you might have to scroll up just a little bit.
How far up?
Just till our last comment that you read.
I think you got.
Start with
Yeah, right there's
Melissa.
good.
Under Melissa. Under Dear Woman.
Alrighty. Leslie Sharteeth said that was just all praying for the Sundance people are going to have to go in at Concho.
Yes. Thank you. Thank you for sharing that, sister.
Kimberly said, OCO, good morning.
Sio.
From Miss Cope.
Hello.
She also said it again.
She had to correct her spelling. That's what.
Sio.
And Kenny said, Nyake.
Nyakit Kenny.
Farah said good morning.
Morning.
Good morning, sister.
There's a comment that doesn't have anything on it. Leslie said happy that I'm sober. She also said, "Yep, Barry is hard headed. That I could tell you that right now. He's my brother, and I should know that."
Yep.
Yeah, definitely.
Double
Definitely
double
hard-headed.
double like that comment.
Yeah, definitely hard-headed.
You don't have to do that.
You can favorite it.
Yeah.
Renee said, "Hey, have a good day."
Hey, thank you for tuning in, Renee. We appreciate you.
Cassie said, "I don't know what I am, but I know I enjoy connection with my creator and the tools I need to succeed in life."
Well, if you want to know what you are, I'll definitely let you know later.
We'll send you a message.
Yeah, I'm just kidding, sis. Thank you for sharing that. We appreciate that.
Leah said, "Good morning."
Good morning.
Edwina said,
Y'all ki-
"Good morning, fellas. Tuning in from Wichita and affiliated tribe."
Hey.
Hey. Hello,
Unsty
Bear Program.
Huntedish.
Yeah, that's the Huntedish.
Unsty Huntedish.
Mary Faye said, "I'm learning that it's okay to rest, take time, pray about it, feel, recharge, and get back at it.
Hey, all right, sister.
It will still be
Kick-a-deuce.
there when I'm ready. Love you guys for always putting things into perspective for me."
Aho, aho. What does Nawa mean?
Noah.
What does
Means
that mean?
like, I think it just means like hello.
Oh,
It's like a greeting. Yeah.
Noah.
Noah.
All right, sister. Thank you for commenting.
Isaac said, "Good morning." Cassie said, "I'm a creature of great mystery."
Everyone, appreciate it. Appreciate you. You know, this week we have Men's Health Day in Watanga on Wednesday.
Yep.
And then, as usual, every Tuesday, we round up and we all go to Oklahoma City to Second Chance Thrift Store on 23rd and
I can't remember.
Meridian? MacArthur. 23rd and MacArthur. Probably about a block away, actually, from 23rd.
Yep.
But it's behind Second Chance Thrift Store. Last week they had showers, they had washing machines. You can come take a shower, come, get tested for HIV and syphilis, which, there has been an outbreak, So, we're just trying to focus our efforts on helping out the community in that area with harm reduction supplies.
Yep.
So we do that every Tuesday at Second Chance Thrift Store, but in the back. We're actually in the alley.
Yep.
And it's a lot of unhoused, the unhoused population in that area. We like to show them that we did not forget about them. We're just trying to provide some kind of resources to interact with the people that suffer in silence. So I love the fact that we get out there and pat some flesh. They're very receptive. A lot of great interaction goes on there. So if you've never heard of Be Heard, there it's called the Be Heard movement. It's focusing on the unhoused population. So they're doing great work. They go from back and forth. They have a trailer, that goes back and forth from Oklahoma City to Tulsa. Like they're like on a weekly schedule. So I'm not sure if they're going to be there. Actually, I don't know if they're going to be there this Tuesday.
Oh, I don't know.
I think it's the following Tuesday.
Come out. Tatum might have $5 for you.
Yeah. But they give a little, come get tested. They do give you, if you test positive, they got a little something there. They got resources. It's just a way for us to to interact.
Yep.
And it's like frontline peer work. I love the fact that we get out there and do that. So that'll be 10 to 2 tomorrow. The sister Nessa always comes and volunteers with us, which we always appreciate. Other people, if you want to volunteer, we would greatly appreciate it. But the majority of everybody is probably in Wyoming right now.
Yeah.
You know, our Arapaho relatives, you know, their ceremonies are kicking off this week up there in Ethity. So, you know, just, you know, say a prayer for them, you know, that they all, you know, everything goes good for them and they return home safely, you know. So, I know Janet's probably up there just
Being
doing
all,
the most.
being
Yep.
all Arapaho.
Yep. I mean, that's all right. You know, they can have her.
Man, she was trying to deny for like 2 or 3
I
weeks.
know, right?
I ain't going up there.
I ain't going up
Yeah,
there.
I don't even know what. I don't even know why he's trying to say. You
Yeah.
know darn well you was going up there.
You know, damn
Had
good
her
and
bags
well.
back for a month.
Yeah. You know, like it's a good place, man.
Yeah.
You know, I think about how, you know, my brother Craig took my Aunt Betty up there. You know, and man, they treated her good.
Yeah, things
You
weren't
know,
going the way they are for me right now, then I was going to try to go up there because I really want Mello to go up there and
for
experience
sure,
that.
for sure.
And so I was looking forward to that. And even his family was like, "Are you guys still coming?" And I was like, it's not. It just
Yeah,
didn't
it
work
just
out.
wasn't in the
It
cards.
just
Yeah,
didn't work out this time. So yeah, so now I have a whole year to make sure that we're going to be ready.
definitely, definitely.
Try to be ready for it next year. So
And you know, it's a great experience.
Yeah.
I've never even been up there. I've been up there, but it's never been, you know, for ceremony.
yeah,
So I mean, you know, one of these days, you know, one of these days, I'm gonna be able to make that trip. And I look forward to it.
finally embrace that Arapaho side.
Yeah. You know, I mean, you know, it's, you know, like I feel like,
You got to finish down here. So,
of course, but you know, I have a lot of good, you know, Arapaho brothers.
Yeah.
You know, a lot of, you know, really close. You know, really close. You know, my one of my brothers, you know, Big Will. I mean, you know, he's just like my brother.
yeah,
You know, so I mean, one of these days.
yeah. You know, Mama Dara would have
Yeah. I got to see her the other day. She's not gonna get to go this year.
just welcome you with open arms. That's crazy.
I already know.
It won't
I
be
know,
the
right?
same without her being up there.
You know, so I mean, yeah, I seen her Saturday at Walmart. But you know, it's always, you know, that's my other mom. You know,
Yeah.
like it's always great to see her. So you know, just that interaction alone. I don't think she understands like my sight problems. I didn't get to tell her, but you know, I'm sure she'll learn about it soon. You know, but I
You know,
mean, you
one day
know,
I was talking to KK about that. She was like, "There's something wrong with his eyes," and I was like, "Yes." And so I had to like do the little quick Barry rundown about what was going on with you. So that might be where she heard it from.
Yeah.
I don't know.
but she put her arm out, and Natalie's like, she's trying to hug you. Oh, I'm sorry. But yeah,
Yeah.
so Tuesday we'll be in the city. Wednesday we'll be in Watanga for Men's Health.
Yeah.
Thursday we do have the meeting here at 1950 South Shepherd, and then on Friday night they have a men's meeting
Yeah.
here at 1950 South Shepherd. And once again, shout out to South Coast Behavioral. You know, my brother Dave over there, my brother Dallas, my brother, you know, my OG Justin Evans.
Yeah.
You know, I appreciate you gentlemen, what y'all are able to do in our community. But more importantly, you know, providing a safe space for these people to grow. You know, that's very important.
Is someone running your meeting on Wednesday, Tatum?
And then our very own Tater Hot Escott.
Tater Hot.
Tater Hot. Hot Tot. Tater
Hot
Hot Tot.
Escott. You know, every time,
There we
every
go.
time you eat them tater tots, they always hot. You got
Yeah, Tater Tot. Extra cheesy Hot Tot Escott. You know,
cheesy for sure.
chili cheese. Well, she'll be going to New Jersey this week.
Yeah, she's actually doing
you know,
a speaker meeting up
yeah,
there. So
she's going
highlight.
returning back to the facility that she got sober at. I mean that's you know that's amazing work. You know, so
Awesome.
thank you, sis, for you know just being you know just for hanging in there. You know what I mean? Like this is your destiny. You were meant to go back and share your story. So I love that. You know, this is a fun group. You know, so
Okay.
Oh, Farrah. Yeah. Farrah said hi.
Yeah.
Can we go
she was on
through?
Yeah.
Didn't Farrah say hi?
there. Yeah, she was up there. I don't know if she's still on, but she was
She
up there.
said good morning.
Yeah.
Good morning, Farrah. So yeah, Farrah will be leading the women's group on Wednesday. You know, we really appreciate Farrah. She's definitely showed up and shown out. You know what I mean? Like she really she's about that sobriety life, you know, and you love to see, you know, when your friends, you know, when they get sober, you know, like it's an amazing thing. So
Farrah's still with us. She just said hi again.
oh hey.
Hey, scroll up just a little bit. There was a comment from Lila Marie. She says, "Today's focus teaches me to slow down and remain teachable also, and that it's okay to be corrected as well."
Definitely.
Did you hear that last part?
Definitely.
It's okay to be corrected as well. I have problems with that, so that's why.
Very huge problems with that. But you know, like I like that. I appreciate that comment. Well, do you got anything else? Is there any more comments before we go?
Nadina Grant says, "Good morning. I enjoy this broadcast. I learn a lot about the addiction community."
And Cassie said Tatum, they're just jealous. They wish there was a hot tot instead of soggy fries.
Hey.
You're in there with us, Cass.
Yeah.
And then Natalie said Hotsy Totsy is a callback to the 70s for those who remember. Welcome back, Cotter.
You're too old, girl. You're too old with all that.
Yeah. Hot Tot does
Welcome
not
back,
know anything about what you just
back,
said.
Welcome back. Barbarino.
No. Farrah says she's still here. Join us, please.
Yes, Tuesday or Wednesday
All
is our women's meeting at 6:30. 6
She also
6 p.m.
says prayers for the Willie family. My condolences to Chief's family.
Yes, definitely.
And Cassie said, "Whatever, Team Hot Tots."
Don't throw yourself in there.
Don't be trying to just.
Don't just throw yourself
you can
in
just
there.
Be part of the Hot Tot gang.
You're extra cheesy, if anything.
All right.
Well, I believe that's it. We appreciate all the comments. You know, we appreciate everybody that interacts with us.
Absolutely.
You know, I always look forward to this. I mean, you know, it's just part of my day.
Yep.
You know, and I you know, become a little vulnerable. I get to grow from each one of these. So, you know, I enjoy it. So thank you for coming on with me today. You know,
Yeah,
appreciate
no
it. Darian's gonna be gone all week. So we just kicking it.
Yep.
Doing whatever we want, you know, everybody just partying.
He messages like we're gonna listen to what he's
Yeah,
saying.
like say it to my face,
Yeah,
boy.
yeah.
You know, slam my
Come to the
phone
office.
down. Yeah.
You won't come to the
Don't
office.
say that to my face. Speaker just bumping.
No.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, you know, we will see you soon. We appreciate, you know, all the likes, shares, follows. Tell your mammy about us, and we will see you tomorrow. I hope.